The October light in my garage was the particular gold of late afternoon, the kind that turns dust motes into dancing specks of fire. I was exactly where I had been every third Saturday of the month for the past 15 years, under the chassis of my 2004 Honda Accord, performing my seasonal maintenance ritual. The smell of old motor oil and concrete was as familiar to me as my own breath. My hands, though spotted now with age and slightly stiff in the joints, moved with the automatic precision of 42 years as an electrical engineer for Aerodyne Systems. I could diagnose a faulty circuit board from its thermal signature alone. I could trace a schematic backward in my sleep. This ritual with my car was my meditation, my connection to a lifetime of understanding how things work, of finding order in systems. That day I was checking the brake lines, running my fingers along the protective rubber housing, feeling for any telltale softness or abrasion. The car was spotless underneath. I kept it that way, which is why my index finger caught on something that absolutely did not belong. Not a rough edge of metal, not a factory weld. Something smooth, cylindrical, and cold. A cable. A cable that wasn't on any Honda schematic I'd ever studied. A cold trickle, completely separate from the autumn chill in the garage, traced down my spine. I slid out from under the car on my creeper, the wheels rumbling on the concrete. I stood, my knees popping in protest, and fetched my high-intensity inspection lamp from its pegboard hook. The yellow beam cut through the shadows beneath the car. I got back down, not on the creeper this time, but on my back on the cold floor, ignoring the protest in my lower back. I followed the rogue cable with the light. It was a professional-grade installation. The cable was sheathed in a durable, woven loom, the exact color of the factory wiring. It was secured with proper nylon ties, not duct tape or zip-ties. It ran from a point high up near the firewall, down along the main wiring harness, and terminated behind the plastic shield of the front bumper. My heart began a slow, heavy thud against my ribs. I knew what I was looking for before I found it. My engineering mind, trained for pattern recognition and failure analysis, had already assembled the clues: unauthorized wiring, professional installation, strategic placement. With careful fingers, I unclipped a section of the bumper's inner fender liner. And there it was, nestled within a custom-cut foam housing, velcroed to the car's metal frame. A device matte black about the size of 2 stacked credit cards but thicker. A small, clear window showed a circuit board within, and a single cherry red LED blinked at a steady, metronomic interval. 1 second on, 1 second off, like a digital heartbeat. The air left my lungs in a soft whoosh. I lay there, the cold of the concrete seeping into my shoulders, staring at this pulsating invader in my car, my sanctuary, my independence. I knew this model. It was a GT8000 series multi-purpose telematics unit. Commercial grade, not consumer. Used by fleet management companies and private investigators, and I recalled with a fresh wave of nausea, in some repossession operations. Its capabilities were extensive: real-time GPS tracking via cellular networks, geofencing alerts, and, with the proper ADA modules, much more. It could interface with a vehicle's OBD-II port, potentially accessing data from the engine computer, the braking system, even the airbag controllers. The installation was recent. The cuts in the foam were sharp, not worn. There was no accumulation of road grime on the device itself. This had been done within the last week, maybe days, and only one person had had unsupervised access to my car in that time frame. My son, David. He'd come by the previous Sunday. He'd said he noticed a weird sound from my front end when I'd driven to his place for dinner the week before. Probably just a wheel bearing starting to go. Pop, he'd said with that concerned frown that had become more frequent over the last year. At your age, you shouldn't be dealing with car trouble on the side of the road. Let me check it out. I'd been touched by his concern. I'd made us coffee, brought him a toolkit, and left him to it while I went inside to pay some bills. He'd been under the hood and beneath the car for almost an hour. I remembered the sound of his ratchet, the occasional clink of a tool on concrete. I'd thought nothing of it. My boy helping his old man. Now, looking at this device, that memory curdled. The weird sound had been a pretext. The hour under my car hadn't been diagnosis. It had been installation. Why? The question echoed in the silent garage, louder than the faint tick of the cooling engine. David was my only child, 38 years old, a certified public accountant with what I believed was a stable firm. We had our differences. He thought I was too stubborn about living alone. I thought he worried too much, but it was normal family friction. Or so I'd believed. A cold, analytical calm began to settle over my initial shock. This was a problem. A system had been compromised. My training took over: observe, document, hypothesize, test. I did not remove the device. Removing it would alert the watcher. Instead, I became the observer. Using my smartphone, I took dozens of photographs. Macro shots of the device's serial number, scratch-free, new. Wide shots showing its integration with my car's frame. Detailed images of the wiring splice, which was expertly soldered and shrink-wrapped. I created a video, narrating in a low, clinical tone, panning slowly from the point of discovery to the wider context of the garage. October 21st, 4:17 p.m. Subject device discovered during routine maintenance. Installation appears professional, utilizing military-grade adhesive and integrated wiring. Point of origin likely interior cabin. Investigation to follow. I then carefully reassembled everything exactly as I had found it. The LED continued its relentless blink. I was being tracked. In real time. Right now, someone likely. David could open an app and see a pulsating dot labeled dad or asset or something equally impersonal, sitting in my garage. For the next 72 hours, I lived two lives. The external life was Robert Shaw, retiree, going about his quiet routines. The internal life was that of an engineer, conducting a critical diagnostic on a compromised system. I became hyper-aware of my movements. On Monday, I deviated from my normal pattern. Instead of going to the grocery store at 10 a.m., I drove across town to a large, anonymous home improvement warehouse at 2 p.m. I parked in the farthest corner of the lot. I did not go inside. I sat in my car for exactly 12 minutes, then drove home. It was a data point, a blip on the tracker's log. At 2:28 p.m., as I was putting the car back in the garage, my phone rang. David. Hey, Pop, you out and about? Just got back home. Why? Just checking in. You sounded a little winded on the phone yesterday. Wanted to make sure you're feeling okay. I'm fine, David, just puttering. Pudding? Sounded like you were moving around. Where's home right now? A chill sharper than before. In my kitchen. Making tea. Why the third degree? A pause, just a fraction too long. No degree, just care. Love you, Dad. Love you too? He called 8 minutes after I stopped moving. Coincidence was possible, but improbable. The tracker would have shown my drive to the warehouse, my stationary period, my return trip. His call was a check-in aligned perfectly with the end of an anomalous movement. Tuesday's test was more deliberate. I drove to the Central Library, a place I frequented. I went inside. Checked out a book on European history, a subject I had no real interest in, chosen deliberately, and stayed for 40 minutes. Standard behavior. Then instead of driving straight home, I drove to a park on the west side, one I hadn't visited in years. I walked a slow loop around the pond, the book under my arm. Another data point. An unusual destination after a routine one. The call came as I was getting back into my car at the park. Dad, it's David. Everything all right? Perfectly. Enjoying the afternoon. At the library. Still? Your energy seems good. You're walking around? Just stretching my legs in the parking lot. Beautiful day. Another pause. I could almost hear him comparing the stationary library dot on his screen with the physical. Activity in my voice. Right, well, don't overdo it. Remember what the doctor said about your blood pressure? My doctor had said nothing of the sort about walking. Another subtle insertion of a narrative my declining health. The evidence was building, but I needed irrefutable proof. I needed to see the panic in the system. For that, I needed to create a situation the tracker couldn't explain. Wednesday morning, I visited an electronic supply store and purchased a small Faraday bag of signal blocking pouch used to isolate devices from wireless transmissions. At 1 p.m., I drove to the sprawling Rivertown Mall. I parked in the underground parking garage, where cellular signals were often weak. Inside the car, I carefully, without removing it from its housing, slipped the entire bumper section containing the tracker into the Faraday bag and sealed it. To the outside world, the GPS signal would vanish abruptly, as if the device had been destroyed or disabled. I then exited my car, took the elevator up to the mall, and walked straight through the building to a taxi stand on the opposite side. I took a cab 12 miles to the industrial district, to the workshop of my oldest friend, Martin Ryerson. Martin and I had worked together at Aerodane for 30 years. He was a mechanical genius, taciturn, and utterly trustworthy. I didn't tell him everything, just that I had a sensitive electronic device I needed him to examine for modifications and that I needed to be off the grid for a few hours. He asked no questions, just poured 2 cups of terrible black coffee and got to work. While Martin used his microprobes and oscilloscope on the device, I had brought a separate, older GPS unit I owned as a pretext. I used his secure landline to call my attorney, Amanda Price. Amanda. It's Robert Shaw. I need to schedule an urgent meeting about my estate documents, and I need complete discretion. Robert, is everything all right? You sound strained? Not yet. But I'm conducting due diligence on a potential threat to my assets. I'll explain in person. Can you see me tomorrow at 9? She could. I hung up, the receiver slick in my hand. Martin looked up from his microscope. This consumer unit is standard. But you asked about modifications. The GT8000 series you described. If someone added the optional relay module, it could accept remote signals, not just send them. It could be used to trigger a short, send a kill command to an ECU. Nasty stuff. Why do you ask? Hypothetical, I said, my mouth dry. Right, Martin said, his eyes knowing. He slid a folded piece of paper across the workbench. On it was a name and number. Elena Vance, private investigator, discreet, tell her I sent you. 3 hours after I had entered the mall, I reversed the process. Taxi back, walk through the mall, descend to my car. I removed the tracker from the Faraday bag. The moment it re-established a signal, my phone, which had been silent in the bag with it, exploded. 14 missed calls. 8 text messages. All from David. The progression was a masterclass in escalating panic. 2:15 p.m. Dad, tried calling. Give me a ring when you can. 2:47 p.m. Your phone's going straight to voicemail. Everything okay? 3:22 p.m. Dad, seriously? Call me back. Starting to worry. 3:59 p.m. I'm looking at your location and it's been stationary at the mall for hours. Are you hurt? Do I need to come there? 4:30 p.m. Answer your phone. I'm calling security at the mall. 4:45 p.m. Dad, please. This isn't funny. Where are you? 5:05 p.m. I'm getting in the car. I'm coming to the mall. 5:12 p.m. Last chance. Call me now or I'm calling the police for a wellness check. He wasn't worried about me. He was terrified his surveillance had failed. The wellness check was a threat away to regain visual confirmation on his asset. I waited until I was home, the garage door closed, to text back. So sorry, David. Phone died while I was at the mall. Lost track of time in the bookstore. All fine. His call was immediate. Your phone died? For 4 hours? The battery is old? Like its owner? I forced a chuckle. But your car, the tracker. I mean, your car was there the whole time. How would you know where my car was, David? Silence. Thick, profound, guilty silence. Then backpedaling. I assumed. If you were at the mall, your car would be there. Dad, you can't just disappear like that. At your age, with your heart, there it was again. The narrative. My age. My fictional heart condition. The constant, gentle pressure to frame me as frail, forgetful, vulnerable. David, I said, my voice soft. Are you tracking me? The silence this time was different. It was the silence of a caught animal. Then a rush of words. It's for safety, Dad. It's a safety app. I have it on my phone too. It's in case of emergencies. After your fall last year, I had slipped on some ice in my driveway. I'd been bruised, not broken. He was weaponizing a minor incident. It feels like an invasion, son. It's love. It's concern. You're being paranoid. Maybe I am, I said and hung up. Paranoid, the gaslighter's favorite word. I looked at Martin's note. Elena Vance. Elena Vance operated out of a nondescript office above a dental clinic. She was in her 50s, with sharp green eyes and an air of serene competence. I laid out the facts for her, the device, David's access, the calls, my suspicions. I gave her David's full name, date of birth, and the last known details of his life. I need to know if he's in financial trouble, I said. Serious trouble? And I need to know if my assets, specifically this house, are involved. I'll need a retainer and a signed authorization, she said. No judgment, no shock. Just professionalism. I'll have preliminary findings in 48 hours. Those 48 hours were the longest of my life. I barely slept. I ate little. I avoided my home computer entirely, using a tablet with a new, encrypted email account at the library. I called Amanda Price again and moved our meeting up. Bring every document related to your estate, and any correspondence with David in the last 18 months, she instructed. At our meeting in her oak-paneled office, I showed Amanda the photos of the tracker. I played her the audio recording of my last call with David I had begun, recording all our conversations. After the mall incident, her normally impassive face grew grim. This is elder abuse, Robert. Financial exploitation and surveillance. The tracking device alone may violate federal and state electronic communications laws. The suggested narrative of incapacity is a classic precursor to seeking guardianship or coercing changes to estate documents. Could he have already done something? Forged something? She pulled up the county recorder's database on her computer. Her fingers flew over the keys. She searched my name, my address, my parcel number. Then she froze. She turned the screen toward me. It was a document filing, a UCC financing statement, essentially a public notice of a security interest in personal property. The debtor listed was David Aaron Shaw. The secured party was Apex Capital Partners, LLC, and listed as collateral was all interest in the real property located at 1847 Maple Ridge Drive, my address, held in beneficial ownership through inheritance expectancy. My vision tunneled. The words swam on the screen. What does this mean? It means, Amanda said slowly, that David has taken a loan, likely a very large one, from an entity called Apex Capital. And as collateral for that loan, he has promised them his expected inheritance of this house. He's borrowed against your death, Robert. The room tilted. I gripped the edge of her desk. Is that legal? It's a gray area and highly predatory. These inheritance advance companies target people in desperate financial straits. The interest rates are usurious, but the filing is real. It creates a cloud on your title. If David defaults, and with these companies, default is almost inevitable, they could place a lien on the property upon your passing, or even attempt to force a sale to satisfy the debt while you're alive. If they can prove David has a current interest in it, how much? I can't tell from this filing. But these loans are often for a fraction of the property's value. 50, maybe 100,000, for a house worth over 600,000. So he sold $100,000 of my future for what? Cash now? Almost certainly. The pieces smashed together in my mind with brutal clarity. The debt. The tracker to monitor my movements, my health, perhaps to stage an accident. The computer spyware to find my will. MY banking information to look for other assets. The narrative of my decline to lay the groundwork for asserting I was incapable, to gain power of attorney, to control the asset he'd already sold. My son wasn't just betraying me. He had, in a very real sense, already sold my home out from under me, and I was now a living obstacle to his financial survival, an obstacle that needed to be managed or removed. I walked out of Amanda's office into a world that had fundamentally changed. The autumn sun was still bright, the leaves still brilliant, but a filter had been removed. Everything looked sharper, harder, more dangerous. When I returned home, there was a message on my landline, which I rarely used. It was from David's wife, Melissa. She sounded strained. "Hi, Robert, it's Melissa. He's really stressed about work and everything. He loves you so much. He's just trying to help. Maybe we could all have dinner this weekend? Talk things through like a family? The peace offering. The family unity play. Was she in on it? Complicit? Or another victim of David's desperation? I didn't know. I deleted the message. Elena Vance's preliminary report arrived via secure email the next day. It was worse than I'd imagined. David's financials were a disaster. The gambling wasn't just casual. He had accounts with 3 offshore sports betting sites, losses exceeding $280,000. The loan from Apex Capital was for $85,000 at an effective annual interest rate of 148%. He was 3 weeks behind on payments. His condo was in pre-foreclosure. His car had been repossessed. His accounting license was under investigation by the state Board for Improper Client Fund Management, and Apex Capital Partners, LLC, according to Elena's notes, had ties to a known organized crime syndicate operating out of Las Vegas. They were not bankers. They were predators, and they didn't just collect debts. They collected. The final line of Elena's report read, "Subject is under extreme duress. The secured party, Apex, has a documented history of coercive collection methods, including threats of violence and property damage. Your asset, the house, is their only clear path to repayment. You are considered a primary risk factor to their investment." I was a risk factor. To be mitigated. That night, I made the hardest decision of my life. I could not save David from himself. Not anymore. He had crossed lines from which there was no easy return. My duty now was to protect myself, to secure the life I had built, and to stop his actions from destroying us both. With Amanda's guidance, I executed a series of legal moves. I transferred the title of my home into an irrevocable charitable remainder trust. With the local community foundation as the trustee, I would have the right to live there until my death, after which it would be sold and the proceeds donated. It was no longer part of my estate. It was no longer something David could inherit or borrow against. I updated my will, explicitly disinheriting David and naming my sister as executor and my nieces as beneficiaries of my remaining assets. I filed a police report for the illegal surveillance, providing all my evidence. I filed a report with the Federal Communications Commission regarding the unauthorized tracking device. And then I prepared for the confrontation. I knew David would come when he realized what I had done. The loan from Apex would be called immediately once they learned their collateral had vanished. He would be desperate, dangerous. I installed security cameras, visible and hidden. I changed the locks. I told my neighbors to call the police if they saw David on my property, and I invited him over on my terms. He arrived on a Saturday morning. He looked gaunt, haunted. He came alone. "Dad," he said, standing in my doorway. "We need to talk, please." "Come in, David." I led him to the living room. I did not sit. I remained standing between him and the door. "What's going on, Dad?" He began, his voice pleading. "I got a call from some lawyer about the house. They said you put it in a trust? What does that mean? What about my future?" "Your future, David? Or the $85,000 you owe to Apex Capital?" All the color drained from his face. His mouth opened, but no sound came out. "I know about the gambling, the lost car, the foreclosure, the investigation into your license. I know you used my house as collateral for a loan you can't repay. And I know you put a tracking device on my car. It's not like that, he whispered. Show me your phone, David. What? Your phone. The app. Show me the tracker app right now. He flinched as if struck. His hand went to his pocket, then stopped. He couldn't do it. The evidence was right there, and he couldn't bring himself to show it. I had it all documented, David. The device. The financial filings. The spyware on my computer. I've filed police reports. I've secured the house. It's over. The change was instantaneous. The pleading, worried son vanished. In his place was a stranger, his face contorted by a fury so pure it was frightening. You stupid old man, he spat. Do you have any idea what you've done? You signed my death warrant. They're going to kill me. They're going to kill Melissa. No, David, you did that when you borrowed money from criminals. I'm just refusing to be killed alongside you. You owe me, he shouted, taking a step forward. I'm your son? That house is mine. My inheritance. You have a duty to help me. I have a duty to protect myself from you, I said, my voice steady, though my heart was hammering. You didn't ask for help. You plotted to take it. You installed a device that could have killed me. You sold my home to gangsters. Where in that is a son asking his father for help? It was just a tracker. He screamed. Was it? I walked to my bookshelf, pulled out the printout Martin had helped me analyze. I threw it on the coffee table. It was the schematic for the GT800 relay module. This shows how a remote signal could trigger a short in the brake light circuit, causing the main ECU to think there's a critical failure, potentially locking the brakes, or send a kill command to the fuel pump. You're an accountant, David, but you're tech savvy? You knew what that module could do. Did you order it? Was that the next step when the accident? Narrative wasn't happening fast enough? He stared at the schematic, and in his eyes, I saw not shock at the accusation, but shock that I knew, that I had figured it out. That was the final confirmation. He hadn't just been tracking me. He had been considering, planning, something far worse. The fight went out of him. He crumpled into the armchair, sobbing great, heaving, ugly sobs of a man who has lost everything, including his own soul. I'm sorry, Dad, I'm so sorry. I was drowning. I didn't know what else to do. In that moment, he was my little boy again, scared and crying after breaking a window with a baseball. The instinct to comfort him was a physical ache in my chest. But I couldn't. The man who had done these things was not my little boy. He was a stranger who shared his face. I've made arrangements, I said, my voice hollow. There's a gambling addiction treatment center in Arizona. I've paid for a 3-month program. It's a one-time offer. You go there today. You get help. You cooperate fully with the authorities about Apex Capital. In return, I will not press charges for the illegal surveillance and attempted fraud. The police report will remain inactive as long as you're in treatment and cooperating. This is the only path forward that doesn't end with you in prison or dead in a ditch. He looked up, his face slick with tears. And then you rebuild a life. One that has nothing to do with me or this house or my money. We will not have a relationship, David, not for a very long time, maybe never. You need to become a person I could want in my life again. And right now, you are not that person. He left an hour later carrying a duffel bag with the basics Amanda had packed for him. A car service, arranged and paid for by my attorney, took him directly to the airport. I stood at the living room window, watching the black sedan disappear down Maple Ridge Drive. I felt nothing. A vast, empty silence where my heart used to be. The aftermath was a long, quiet unraveling. David entered the treatment program. Under pressure from the organized crime task force, who were very interested in his dealings with Apex, he agreed to testify. The house was safe in its trust. The police closed my surveillance case with a warning to David. I hear about David occasionally, through the thin pipeline of my attorney. He completed the program. He lost his accounting license permanently. He works as a data entry clerk somewhere in the Midwest. He sends letters to me, care of Amanda's office. I have instructed her turn them unopened. Someday I may be ready to read them. Today is not that day. My life is quiet now, smaller. The garage is just a garage. The car is just a car. I still perform my maintenance rituals, but the pleasure is gone, replaced by a mechanical necessity. I have a dog, a calm rescue greyhound who sits by my chair. I see my sister more. I volunteer at the library, repairing old books. The lesson is carved into me now, a scar on my soul. Love is not blind trust. Family is not a free pass to your vulnerability. The people closest to you hold the blueprint to your destruction, and desperation can turn that blueprint into a weapon. To anyone hearing this, if the help feels intrusive, if the concern feels like control, if your gut screams that something is wrong, listen, investigate, protect yourself. Document everything. Seek legal counsel before it's too late. Your safety, your autonomy, your peace, these are the foundational elements of your life. No relationship, no matter how deep the blood tie, is worth sacrificing them for. You cannot set yourself on fire to keep someone else warm, especially when that someone else is holding the match. This has been my story, a story of betrayal, survival, and the painful price of truth. If it has resonated with you, or made you look at a situation in your own life differently, I urge you to act. Start with documentation. Talk to a professional. And remember, protecting yourself is not an act of disloyalty. It is the fundamental act of self-preservation. Please, if you found value in this difficult narrative, support this channel by liking this video. It helps Wines of Thought continue to share these crucial real-life stories. Share your own thoughts or experiences in the comments below sometimes. Sharing the burden is the first step toward healing. And subscribe for more journeys into the complex, often painful, but always important truths of the human experience. Thank you for listening.